I let her daughter use my kitchen for her baking class. 1 week later, my oven was broken, my silverware was missing, and she said, "Maybe don't lend your house out if you can't handle the outcome." So I opened my phone, scrolled through the photos I'd taken, and forwarded them somewhere she didn't expect. I live in a quiet neighborhood just outside Dayton, Ohio. I'm 58, widowed, and I've lived in this house for over 20 years. Most of the neighbors are polite. We wave when we see each other, small talk at best. I like it that way. About 3 years ago, a woman named Sharon moved in next door. She's maybe 10 years younger than me, married, one daughter named Carly. They seemed like a regular family. I didn't know much about them beyond that. We weren't close, but she was always nice when we crossed paths. One day, she stopped me by the mailbox. Said their kitchen was under renovation and her daughter, Carly, needed to practice baking for some final project in her culinary class. She asked if Carly could use my kitchen a couple times that week, just for a few hours here and there. I didn't think twice. I like helping people when I can. Carly was polite whenever I'd seen her, a quiet kid. I figured it wouldn't be a big deal. I said yes. The first time Carly came over, she brought 2 big tote bags full of supplies. She was polite, said thank you, took her shoes off at the door. I showed her where the baking pans and mixing bowls were. I offered to help her set up, but she said she had it handled. I left her in the kitchen and went to my sewing room down the hall. She stayed about 3 hours that first day. When she left, the kitchen looked clean. There was a faint smell of cookies in the air. I checked the oven and counters. Everything looked okay. She came over again 2 days later. Same thing. Brought her own supplies, stayed for a few hours, left with a few boxes. I didn't ask many questions. Honestly, I thought it was sweet, a kid taking something seriously, putting effort into a school project. But by the 3rd visit, I started noticing things. The amount of stuff she brought was more than any school project would need. I'm talking full-size bags of flour, multiple frosting tubs, massive cake pans. She also brought a commercial-looking stand mixer, much bigger than the one I owned. That day, I walked out to get water and saw at least 4 decorated cakes on my counter. One had a plastic wedding couple on top. Another was labeled in pink icing with what looked like a business name. She didn't notice me watching. I didn't say anything, but I took a photo, just in case. She came over 2 more times that week. On the 5th visit, I stayed in my sewing room with the door cracked open and my phone nearby. I quietly took a video while she worked. It didn't look like a class project. It looked like a full-on bakery operation. She used my entire kitchen, every surface, every mixing bowl, even my grandmother's cake knives. She never asked. That night, I noticed one of the cabinet doors under the sink wasn't closing right. I opened it and found frosting smeared inside and 2 broken hinges. Then I looked in my silverware drawer. Half of my real silver was missing. I stood there, staring at the empty space where my family silver had been. I checked every drawer. Nothing. My stomach dropped. I walked over to my oven, turned it on, nothing. No light, no sound, no heat. I checked the plug. Still nothing. I opened the door and looked inside. One of the heating elements was bent almost in half. Now I was pissed. I called Sharon. No answer. I texted. Nothing. So I walked over to her house. She opened the door like I was bothering her. I told her everything. The oven, the missing silverware, the mess. I kept my voice calm, but I was furious. She looked at me, shrugged, and said, "Maybe don't lend your house out if you can't handle the outcome." Then she closed the door. I just stood there. I couldn't believe it. She didn't care. No apology, no responsibility. Just that smug little line. But what she didn't know was that I'd been documenting everything. The pictures of the cakes, the labels, the receipts she accidentally left on my counter. A video of her packaging what looked like wedding cakes. One clip where a man showed up, picked up 3 boxes, and handed her a cash envelope. She was using my home to run a business. A full-scale, unlicensed bakery. Without telling me. Without permission. And then she damaged my kitchen and stole from me. So I went inside, opened my phone, and started organizing every photo, every clip, every text. Then I started sending. First to the local health department. Then to the county business licensing office. I sent everything. Photos of the cakes, the video of the pickup, the product labels with names, even a crumpled receipt she left on my table that had her business name on it. Cakes by Carly. I also contacted a woman across the street who works at a local events venue. Told her, "Hey, just so you know, Carly's been baking and delivering cakes out of an unlicensed home kitchen." I didn't hear anything for a few days. But then a white county vehicle showed up in front of Sharon's house. A man in a collared shirt went up and knocked. He had a clipboard in his hand. Later that week, another official came. I don't know what was said, but it lasted almost an hour. 2 days later, a for sale sign went up in their yard. Then came the day Sharon rang my doorbell. She didn't look angry. She looked tired, embarrassed, maybe even scared. She asked if I had reported them. Said they were getting fines. Carly's school was involved now. They might have to leave town. I didn't answer her question. I just looked her in the eye and said, "Maybe don't use someone else's house if you can't handle the outcome." And I closed the door. After that day, I thought it would be over. I really did. I figured Sharon and her family would lay low, deal with the consequences, maybe move on. I didn't expect forgiveness or anything like that. I just wanted it behind me, but it wasn't. A week after our last conversation, someone egged my house. It happened at night. I woke up the next morning and found dried yolks sliding down my front windows. My car was hit too. Someone left an empty egg carton in the bushes near my porch. I didn't have proof, but I knew who it was. I called the police. Filed a report. They said they'd patrol the neighborhood more often, but there wasn't much they could do. A few days later, I noticed something worse. My back gate was wide open. I never leave it like that. I always latch it. I've lived here 20 years. I know my habits. This was no accident. Then I saw the flower bed. It was trampled. Completely wrecked. My tulips, the ones I'd been tending since March, were crushed. Like someone had jumped on them. I felt something shift in me that day. This wasn't about cakes or silverware anymore. This was spite. This was a neighbor who couldn't accept that they got caught. I called the police again. They made another note. Still, no answers. So I decided to watch. I borrowed a trail camera from a friend who hunts. I set it up facing my driveway and front yard. Another one aimed at the back gate. 3 nights later, it caught something. Carly, wearing a hoodie, walking across my front yard with what looked like a can of shaving cream. She sprayed it across my mailbox. Snake. The photo wasn't great, but it was enough. I showed it to the officer who'd handled my previous reports. He recognized her from school events. Said he'd talked to the family. That same night, Sharon showed up at my door again. This time, she wasn't pretending. She was pissed. She started yelling before I even opened the screen door. "You're ruining my daughter's future," she shouted. "You could have just come to me." I stepped outside, calm. I didn't raise my voice. I said, "I did." "You slammed the door in my face." She said Carly's been getting threats from kids at school, that they're being forced to sell their house. I said, "That's not my doing. That's your choices catching up." Then she said something I'll never forget. She said, "You don't know who you're messing with." That was when I knew it wasn't over. That it might get worse. And I wasn't wrong. After Sharon's warning, I didn't sleep well for days. I kept the lights on at night. I started locking every window, even in daylight. I checked the cameras every morning. My stomach was in knots constantly. I wasn't scared of them exactly. I was angry. But anger doesn't stop you from feeling unsafe. Then came the letter. No stamp, no envelope. Just a piece of notebook paper folded in half and stuffed under my front door. All it said was, "You made a mistake. Fix it." I brought it straight to the police. The officer nodded like he'd seen this kind of thing before. Said it was intimidation, but vague enough that it wouldn't hold up in court. He told me to keep the cameras rolling and not to respond. I didn't respond. Instead, I bought 2 more trail cams and a motion light for my backyard. I stopped leaving my trash cans at the curb overnight. I carried pepper spray when I checked the mail.
My whole routine changed.
Because of them. But even with all that, I wasn't ready for what they did next. They filed a complaint against me. A week later, a city inspector showed up at my house saying there'd been a report about unsafe conditions on my property, overgrown bushes, dangerous structures, and suspected code violations. It was complete bullshit. My yard was clean, my house was sound, everything up to code. But I had to go through the inspection, had to deal with the paperwork, had to stand there while a stranger walked through my property and made notes, just because Sharon and her husband wanted to make my life harder. I was done playing defense, so I made one more call. This time, to a woman named Pam. Pam owns the venue where one of Carly's custom cakes had been delivered, the one from the photos. Her niece is in my book club. I told her everything. Showed her the photos, the receipts, the video of Carly boxing up those cakes in my kitchen, the photos of the man picking them up and handing over cash. Pam wasn't happy. Turns out her venue has strict policies. All food served at events must come from licensed vendors. Insurance reasons. Health code. If it got out that someone used a residential unlicensed kitchen, it could cause legal problems. Major ones. She said, "Let me handle this." And she did. 2 days later, Sharon's husband showed up at my house. I didn't even know the man's name before then. He stood on my front step with a red face and fists clenched like he was trying not to lose it. "You need to stop," he said through gritted teeth. "You're going too far." I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You haven't seen far yet." Then I closed the door. Again. That night, my cameras caught them outside. Both of them. Sharon and her husband. Standing at the edge of my property, just staring at the house. They didn't do anything. Not that night. But I knew something else was coming. The next hit wasn't loud. It didn't happen at night. It came quietly, through something I never expected, my job. I'm retired now, but for over 30 years, I worked as a school secretary. After I left, I started volunteering part-time at a local community center, helping older adults learn basic computer skills. I don't get paid, but it gives me something to do, and I've made a lot of friends there. One afternoon, the center director called me into her office. She looked uncomfortable. She closed the door. "I got an email," she said, "from someone claiming you've been harassing a family in your neighborhood. It also said you've been using the center's resources to gather private information about local residents." My mouth went dry. She handed me a printed copy of the email. No name, just a burner Gmail address. It was full of lies. Said I was obsessed, that I was targeting a teenage girl and spreading damaging gossip. That I'd used community center equipment to look up private business records, something I've never done in my life. I couldn't believe what I was reading. The director said she didn't believe it, but she had to report it to the board anyway. Policy. That's when I knew they weren't just trying to scare me. They wanted to ruin me. It didn't stop there. Someone left a 1-star review on the community center's Google page saying, "Don't leave your kids alone with the old lady volunteer. She's got issues." The profile was new.
Fake.
But again, the damage wasn't in the truth. It was in the appearance of truth. I started noticing looks, whispers. People I'd been friendly with for years suddenly a little colder, a little quieter. I felt poisoned. That's the only word I have for it. Like my name had been dipped in something and passed around town. So I started fighting back. Not with lies. With facts. I printed every photo, every receipt, every note I'd saved. I wrote a full timeline. I brought it to the community center board myself and asked for a meeting. I laid it all out, what happened with my kitchen, the cameras, the retaliation. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't dramatize it. I told the truth. The board thanked me.
Said they supported me.
Said they believed me. But I could tell some of them still had doubts. That's what lies do. They don't have to be good. They just have to exist. Later that week, Pam texted me. She said she'd heard through her niece that Sharon and her husband were trying to get Carly's cakes into another venue, this time, one that hosts Sweet Sixteens and quinceañeras. I sent Pam every file I had. 2 days later, Carly's business page on Instagram was deleted. Every cake photo gone. Every tagged event vanished. Then a notice went up on the town's Facebook group. Reminder: all food vendors must be licensed and insured. Unlicensed sales will be reported to the county. No names. But everyone knew. I thought maybe, just maybe, that would be the end of it. But a few nights ago, I got another letter. No threat this time. Just one line. You'll regret this. And I think they mean it. After that last note, I stopped feeling nervous. Not because I wasn't scared, but because I was tired of feeling like I had to prove I didn't deserve what they were doing to me. I knew I had every right to defend myself, to tell the truth. I knew it from day one. But when people start trying to ruin your name, it eats away at you, makes you second-guess even the facts. So I decided no more hiding. I made a copy of everything I'd collected. Photos, receipts, emails, screen grabs, even a flash drive with video footage. I organized it in a binder and gave it to a lawyer my niece referred me to, just in case. He looked through it all and said, if they escalate this any further, we can press charges for harassment and property damage. Just hearing that, knowing someone else saw it as serious, gave me back a little control. Then something unexpected happened. One of the moms from Carly's school messaged me. She said she'd heard what happened and wanted to let me know. Carly had been caught trying to sell cupcakes at a school event, without permission, without a permit, and without listing any allergens. One of the kids had a peanut allergy. It turned into a huge deal. The school called Sharon in. Carly was suspended from extracurriculars for a month. They almost banned her from graduation events. I didn't smile. I didn't feel satisfied. I just felt done. They were their own punishment. I didn't need to do anything more. Then last week, I was sitting on my porch when I saw a for rent sign go up in their front yard. They're not selling anymore. They're leaving. Packing up and going, quietly this time. No loud trucks. No goodbyes. Just yesterday, Sharon was outside, taping up a box in the driveway.
She didn't look at me.
Not once. I don't know if they're running from the fines, the burned bridges, or the fact that the whole neighborhood knows now. Maybe all of it. But I stayed right where I was. On my porch. Watching. Waiting. Because if they ever try to pull something like this again, anywhere, I've got the whole story written down, backed up, and ready. And this time, they won't see it coming. The neighborhood's been quiet since the for rent sign went up. No more smashed flower beds. No more egg stains on my siding. No more shadows near the fence at night. It's like a dark cloud moved off the street. And still, I don't feel settled. One morning, I walked out to get the mail and found Carly in their driveway, loading the back of a car. She looked different. Hair pulled back, no makeup, eyes red.
She saw me.
I saw her. She hesitated like she might say something. Then she turned away and slammed the trunk shut. I watched her for a moment longer, then went back inside. I didn't feel sorry for her. Not exactly. But I did feel something. Maybe it was the realization that she never had a chance to just be a teenager. Her mom had turned her into a business, and when it backfired, they let her take the fall. A few days later, I got a call from Pam. She said she'd heard from someone at the city permit office that Sharon tried to apply for a food business license under a different name, using her sister-in-law's address this time. It didn't work. Her name popped up in the flagged vendor system. She's done in this county. They're going somewhere else now. Probably to start over. Probably to do it again. And still, I kept thinking about that second note. You'll regret this. Not we'll be back. Not watch your back. Just that one line, like a curse someone spits when they know they've already lost. And maybe that's what it was. Because even though I won, even though I kept my name, my kitchen, my peace, I can't lie, it changed me. I don't say yes to people the same way anymore. I keep every receipt. I back up my security footage. I don't wave as much. And when someone knocks on my door now, I don't just answer, I pause. And listen. A few weeks after they left, things went still. No threats. No new gossip. I almost started to feel like myself again. The house was quiet, and the cameras stopped picking up anything strange. But then, something strange did happen. I got a letter from my homeowner's insurance. At first, I thought it was junk mail, but when I opened it, I saw it was a notice of policy review. They were reevaluating my liability coverage due to a recent incident flagged by a third-party report. My heart sank. I called the number. After some transfers, a man told me there had been an anonymous report made about an unauthorized business being operated on my property. He asked if I'd ever used my home to host commercial food prep or events. I almost laughed.
No, I said.
But someone else did, without my permission. He was polite but firm. We'll need proof of that for the file. Otherwise, we'll have to raise your premium. I hung up shaking. Sharon or her husband must have filed that report before they left. One last jab. One last attempt to make me pay for telling the truth. I spent the next 2 days gathering every document again. Police reports, emails, time-stamped photos, even the letter from the city inspector who'd cleared my name. I faxed and emailed and followed up twice. 2 weeks later, I got a letter saying my policy would remain unchanged. But that feeling that someone still had my name in their mouth, still trying to twist the story behind my back, it crawled under my skin. And then one night, a message popped up on my phone. From a number I didn't know. No words. Just a photo. It was a picture of my house. Taken from across the street. No return number. No timestamp. Just the image. And I knew someone hadn't let it go. I called the police right after I got the photo. They came, took a report, and checked the area. They said it could be an old photo, maybe someone trying to scare me. But they couldn't trace the number, and there wasn't much they could do. Again. I checked my cameras, nothing new. Still, I didn't sleep that night. I kept the porch light on. I kept thinking, they're gone, but someone else has the story now. Maybe someone they told. Maybe someone they paid. Or maybe Sharon was just that bitter. And I realized something. This wasn't about a broken oven anymore. Or missing silverware. It wasn't even about the cakes or the fines. This was about someone who didn't like being told no. Someone who thought they could use people and walk away clean. And when I didn't roll over, they needed me to hurt. They needed to ruin me. And for a while they almost did. But I had one last move left. See, I still had Carly's school receipts. Photos of the cakes labeled with full names. Screenshots of orders, messages between her and clients that she left open on my kitchen tablet one day. She didn't log out. She never imagined I'd look. I'd saved them all. I'd also learned, through Pam, that Sharon had opened a new bakery account online. Different name.
Same cakes.
She was using her sister's ID this time to bypass the flag system in the county. So I sent it all. To the state food safety office. To the local PDA where Carly's name still showed up on volunteer lists. And to every single venue tagged in their new page, letting them know what kind of kitchen those cakes came from. The fallout was worse than the first time. They got banned from more venues. Sharon's sister lost her event license for letting her name be used on the paperwork. I heard from Pam that the new inspector launched a deeper audit. Not just fines this time, fraud. Then I got a call. It was from someone I didn't expect.
Carly.
She left a voicemail. Her voice was shaking. She said, "I don't know why you're still going after us. I was just a kid. I was doing what my mom told me. You could have just let it go." And for the first time, I felt something like guilt. Not because I was wrong, but because she was right about one thing. I could have let it go. I could have said, "It's over," and gone back to living quietly. But after what they did, after how far they pushed me, I didn't want to let it go. I wanted them to feel it. I wanted them to know that some people don't forgive being used. Some people don't forget being laughed at on their own doorstep. Some people don't stay victims. I never called Carly back. I never said another word to Sharon. They disappeared again after that. Their page went down. Their phone numbers changed. I don't know where they live now, and I don't care. What I do know is this. They thought they could lie, take, and smile their way through anything. But not this time. because they made one mistake. They picked the wrong kitchen. And I made one too. I let them in,